Worked on 2 more sections in chapter 4. Very slow going. This is the meat chapter, I guess, in this book. So sections 4.6 and 4.7. Of course, only read 4.7. I had already read 4.6 before. And then, yeah, this video goes out July 31st. But now that I'm back from my vacation, it was a little longish of a vacation, I'm actually almost caught up. So this is actually the week before when this video is actually being made. So I'll show the sections of the book. And they are change of basis. So it's got all your projection work back and forth. And of course, you're always figuring out how to go from one to the other. And then there's row space, column space, and null space. And that took a lot of work, took a lot of reading. Probably the longest time that I've taken so far to read a section. This is why this update is really 2 sections instead of 3. Because this particular section is just full of details on how to work with the row space and the column space and the null space. So for example, how to show the row space only using the original rows. There's a little trick of doing a transpose, getting those columns and then transposing them. So there's a lot of work in these 2 sections. Unlike some of the earlier chapters where I could just rip through. I believe chapter 2 was a single video just because it was that quick. This is not the case. This is very slow going. Okay, so section 4.6, this is the reading. You're translating from one basis to another and back. Made some mistakes. But then it became very steady, and I was able to get most of the questions right for the transition matrices, except for a small mistake here. Yeah, so that was section 4.6. Yeah, still going through a lot of problems, which is fun. Yeah, so inverted matrices, material that we've covered before, but now it's within the context of a transformation. Screwed up a couple of the true and false. And then now we get into really the meat, the difficult section, the difficult and long section, where you have to figure out what the bases are for the row space and the column space, and work with several theorems. Yeah, so that's the column, those are the column vectors, and then transpose them. This is from the reading, of course. And then when it came down to the problems, there were a few things that I screwed up, but other than that, it was also steady going. Yeah, so it's really sometimes it's a row reduced echelon form, and sometimes it's just a row echelon form that is needed. Then figuring out how to, this is one example where it's kind of tricky. So if you take and you do the reduction, you get down and you say, all right, so V1, V2, V4, these 3 columns are my span vectors. But then when you try to form V3 and V5 in terms of these, when you read them off, you're really reading them off of the column that they are. So for example, V5 is not minus V1 plus 3V2 plus 2V3. This does not correspond to 2V3. This corresponds to V4. That's a small little thing that at first I was getting confused about. Yeah, and I screwed up a couple of the true and false as always. They tend to be a little tricky. But so that was section 4.7. Yeah, and I already started section 4.8.